On today's Strictly Vikings, I'm going to give my Minnesota quarterback update and what I think the whole lay of the land with this quarterback situation with Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy. We're going to go through my Super Bowl preview. We'll do stay or go for a Vikings free agent. We're going to take a look at our free agent player number 3 and NFL draft player number 3, getting ready for the offseason here coming up in some weeks. We're going to take a look at my Vikings top 5 moments from this season. And then, of course, we'll end it off with our Chat GPT player of the day. Let's get into it. Today is Wednesday, February 5th, and the Minnesota Vikings are playing chess, not checkers. That's right. There's been several reports coming out in the last week or so that the Vikings are most likely going to stick with Sam Darnold in with their quarterback situation for him to be the starter next season. I simply don't believe it. I do not believe one bit of it. And I believe this is just a bunch of smoke screens that the Vikings are throwing out there to try and get the trade value of Sam Darnold higher. Because when you have a guy throw for 3,800 yards and 32 touchdowns, you want to get something for him. You did all that work to revive his career into a player that's going to make 30 plus million a year now, maybe 40, and you want something for him. You don't want to just do that work, help this guy out, and then just see him walk in free agency. You want one of these quarterback needy teams, the Giants, the Browns, the Raiders, to spend a draft pick to make sure they can get him. They don't want to let him hit the open market because they're so afraid that another team is going to be able to snatch him up. Maybe even the Seahawks, sleeper team. Tom Pelissero, he reported, who I should quote, is from Minnesota. So, and I don't think Tom Pelissero was lying when he says that Darnold will most likely be back. That's what he said in an article. I don't think he's lying, but I do think he heard inside the Vikings building that he heard from someone that was the plan. And whether that's true or not, who knows? I believe Pelissero heard it from someone, but again, they're trying to get Darnold's value to rise. JJ McCarthy is now minus 350 to be the Vikings' week 1 starter for the 2025 season. You have to put a $350 on him to be the starter week 1 just to make 100. That's how much it's favored for people who may not know the odds. I believe he will be the starter, and he should be the starter. The Vikings have so many gaps to fill. They have safety, running back, defensive line, offensive line. They have a lot of gaps on this roster they need to fill. They have a little under $70 million in cap space. I believe 66, 67 million in cap space. And you're going to commit 30 plus million to Sam Darnold when you have a top 10 quarterback waiting to play with a year under his belt. I just don't think there's any case scenario that Sam Darnold is the week 1 starter for the Minnesota Vikings. Unless JJ McCarthy somehow gets hurt doing training, doing rehab, I don't know what it is. Unless he gets hurt, I don't see Sam Darnold coming back at all. At all. That's my 2 cents on the situation. I would rather spend the cap space money in offensive line, defensive line, corner, whatever it may be. But you want to solidify those signings before the draft so then going into the draft what you need, which is most likely going to be D-line and running back because it's the deepest positions in this year's draft. And it's luckily enough, it's 2 positions that the Vikings need. And we'll get into some possible players that the Vikings could draft here in a little bit. Same with some free agents, but I'd rather spend the money elsewhere and let JJ McCarthy take the reign. Sam Darnold was great. But the other thing is that when you pay him 30 plus million, the expectations go way up. They go way up. Sam Darnold isn't expected to do what he did last season on a $10 million contract. But he is expected to do that when he's getting paid 30 plus million. And you need Sam Darnold to repeat that performance from last season, but make it even better. He needs to be better than he was last season. He can't fold in those big games. I don't see him coming back. Sam Darnold literally came to Minnesota, made $10 million playing here, and then the Vikings made him 100 plus million by playing here. Shake his hand, say, you know what, you're welcome. Don't even say thank you. You could say thank you. Sam Darnold's fine. Sam Darnold's a Vikings legend now. He's not like a legitimate Vikings legend, but like one of those off-brand Vikings, like Toby Gerhart. That's a Vikings legend. Trying to think of who else. Laquan Treadwell, but he's a Vikings legend in a different way, just because it's like, no one's ever going to forget Laquan Treadwell. But Sam Darnold is up there with those guys. I'll forever remember him. It was a fun season. But the logical decision here is to roll with JJ McCarthy. In other news around the NFL, Myles Garrett requests a trade from the Cleveland Browns. This is a move that he wants to do because he wants to win a Super Bowl, and he believes the Browns aren't in a position to win the Super Bowl in the next 2 to 3 years, which makes sense. They haven't been in a position to win a Super Bowl in a long time, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. He wants out of Cleveland. Dan Orlovsky is going off a lot about how Minnesota should be in the race because they have JJ McCarthy to give up. I just don't think you can give up JJ McCarthy before he even plays a game, especially for a guy like Myles Garrett. If you sign Myles Garrett, that's like, all right, we're trying to win a Super Bowl right now, as in next season, and then you are re-signing Sam Darnold if that's the case. But I just don't think, and again, I don't think Sam Darnold can go to the Browns because they're like 50 in the hole in cap space. And it's going to be tough for Cleveland to get Myles Garrett off their hands. They said they're not willing to trade him. I believe it's going to get ugly just because when you have a team saying, no, we're not trading him, and a guy saying, I need to be traded, you never know which way it's going to go. I believe Myles Garrett will be gone. To where? I don't know. Hopefully not the freaking Lions. Let's just say that. Cooper Kupp also announced that he is going to be traded, not because of his choice, but because of the team's choice. They let him know that they were going to find suitors for him to be traded or sign somewhere in free agency. I've seen a lot of Vikings chatter. It depends on the price, but I just think Cooper Kupp is like, he would be the third option in Minnesota. And what are we willing to pay our third option? And are we sure he's better than Jalen Nailor? Like, are we maybe in certain situations? Yeah, but Jalen Nailor can freaking stretch the field. Jalen Nailor's got speed and explosiveness that Cooper Kupp just doesn't have anymore. And Cooper Kupp is a better receiver than Jalen Nailor. But is he a better fit for this offense? I don't know. We kind of already have route technician Jordan Addison, who can get it done in the middle of the field. Justin Jefferson can do it all, obviously. It's like, do we need a Cooper Kupp? Do we need a guy who's not going to demand the ball, but a guy who could take away some targets from our best players? I don't know. And we got TJ Hawkinson, too. Sometimes there's just too many cooks in the kitchen, a lot of mouths you need to feed, and sometimes it hurts you almost sometimes when you got so many mouths to feed. In other related Vikings news, Byron Murphy won the NFC Pro Bowl Defensive MVP. I didn't watch a second of the Pro Bowl. I mean, if you watch it, that's fine. But like, who is also wasting their time on a Sunday? Like, if you're sitting at home not doing anything, I get it. Turn it on, whatever. But like, this is not a thing you like cancel plans for, or like, you are a hardo if you watch the freaking Pro Bowl nowadays. It stinks. The Pro Bowl stinks. If I ever need to protest the NFL, I will protest the Pro Bowl games just because I can go without watching it. It's brutal stuff. And then lastly, Ziggy and Mark Wolf were stunned by their team's performance in the last two games. I mean, I think we all were. I think I was more stunned at Sam Darnold and just how bright the lights got and how much he folded under pressure. That was pretty surprising to me. I could see him having a bad game, but back-to-back bad games, lights too bright, things he never even did all season, and then they all crept back into his mind in the last two games. And I mean, I think Ziggy and Mark Wolf probably thought they had a legitimate Super Bowl contender on their hands. And I mean, when you're a game away from getting the number one seed in the NFC, I would be thinking that way too. I was thinking that way. I thought the Vikings were going to go to the Super Bowl if they won that game against Detroit. Obviously, that didn't happen, and they weren't even close to being a Super Bowl team. But yeah, they got outclassed, outplayed, and just outperformed in those last two games. And I would be shocked too. Yeah, disappointing stuff. Let's go to our side eye look around the league here. This Super Bowl is going to be great. I'm pumped for this Super Bowl. I have no idea who's going to win. On one hand, the Eagles are the better team. They are the better all-around team, collective roster. They have the better players in most positions. But the most important positions and or coach, they don't have a better coach and they don't have a better quarterback. And that's the thing that scares me about the Eagles. I have decent amount of money on the Eagles in futures. I don't have a lot on the Chiefs, but I really want to bet on the Chiefs to win this game. Time will tell. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure what I'm quite going to do yet. We will see. I'm going to be heading out for the Super Bowl. I'm going to New Orleans today. If you are listening on Wednesday, today I leave. I will be there Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. I will be at Radio Row. I will, be doing stuff at night, whatever it is. I'm going to be hanging out with people. Hopefully getting some content for you guys. Maybe I'll do some Vikings research. Who knows? We'll see what's going on. But never been to New Orleans. My first Super Bowl experience was last year. It was a phenomenal time. I talked to Jordan Addison, Alexander Madison, Travis Kelce, a bunch of other people. It was one hell of a time, and that was partially because it was in Vegas. But I believe New Orleans is going to be just as freaking fun. I mean, the Super Bowl is always there, it seems like. So never been, looking forward to it. If you guys have any suggestions on people I should talk to, things I should go to, content you guys want to see, let me know. DM me on Instagram. DMs are always open. But yes, I will be in New Orleans, boots on the ground, starting tomorrow, today, if you are listening on Wednesday. All right, I want to go through some things that would happen if the Eagles or Chiefs won the Super Bowl. You'll get what I mean in here. Starting with the Eagles. Jalen Hurts would become one of 3 starting quarterbacks to ever win a national championship and a Super Bowl. Several quarterbacks have won both, but only Joe Montana and Joe Namath have started in both of the big games. So there's been some backups that have won it, either in backups in college or backups in the NFL that have won it. But there's only been 2 starters ever to win both games. Devontae Smith would become only the 4th player ever to win the Heisman Trophy, national championship, and Super Bowl. Pretty impressive stat, but he would also become the only player ever to have 2 national championships, a Super Bowl, and a Heisman. I mean, that is one hell of a resume right there. Yeah, I got 2 national championships, a Heisman Trophy, and a Super Bowl. It's pretty crazy stuff if you're Devontae Smith. With just 30 rush yards, Saquon Barkley would record the most rush yards ever in a season, including the playoffs. So safe to say he's going to get that. Safe to say if he doesn't get 30 yards, the Eagles are not winning this game. So we can just put that out there. And honestly, if you win Super Bowl MVP, even if he doesn't, just depending on the type of game he has in the Super Bowl, he would have a strong argument that he's had the greatest running back season of all time. So he would have over 2,000 yards, only the 4th running back ever to do that, I'm pretty sure. He would have the most yards ever, including the playoffs in a season. He would have a Super Bowl MVP. He would become the greatest free agent signing of all time, probably. And I think that's enough bits and pieces to put together for him to have the greatest running back season of all time. I think that's pretty cut and dry. The running back position is back. easy to say that. Am I rooting for the Eagles? I don't think so. I like greatness. I like living in the time of greatness. I like yes, teams winning over and over again, they do get old. But at the same time, I like being able to say I lived through that. I lived through the Chiefs dynasty. I lived through the back half of the Patriots dynasty. Warriors dynasty, LeBron. I like being a part of that. I like being a part of the history and living through it. It's exciting to me. And you're going to be able to look back at it and be like, yo, I lived through the Mahomes era. It was unbelievable. He was probably the most talented quarterback of all time. And I also just don't like Philly. I don't like their fans. They're a bunch of scumbags. I don't really mind their players. Jalen Hurts can be a little corny at times. Same with A.J. Brown. Saquon Barkley is awesome. Electric. That would be sick to see him win a Super Bowl. Their fans are just a bunch of scumbags. I mean, I don't think Minnesota fans will ever forgive Philly fans for what they did during that 2017 NFC Championship game. I mean, it was just tasteless, just disgusting stuff. And I think the thing that I hate the most is that Philly fans will always try and say, "Oh, it's not all of us. You know, it's just a bad few apples." No, I think it's all of you, because I constantly see videos of fans harassing away fans. It's gotten to the point to where fans don't even want to go to Lincoln Financial Field just because of how bad it is. They're just a bunch of scumbag Philly cheesesteak eating, just gross fans. Just gross fans. I mean, the shit they were saying about Millie when the older lady, when the Vikings went, and saying crazy stuff. And then obviously the stuff comes out during the Packers game. After the Commanders games, they're stealing stuff off of Commanders fans' heads. They're stealing hats. They're stealing jackets, whatever it is. They're stealing all of it because they know you can't do anything. Because as soon as you try and do anything, there's 25 of them there to just jump the living shit out of you. So it's just scumbag stuff that I'm just not a fan of at all. I mean, it's Philly. It's gross. Let's go to the Chiefs here. The Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes has a very, very solid argument for the greatest quarterback of all time. In my opinion, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. 7 Super Bowls. Mahomes would have to get to at least 6 in order to have an argument. But if he's at 4 and he wins 3 in a row, that's a pretty compelling argument. Something Brady obviously has never done. Chiefs would have the best dynasty of all time. You can say the Patriots, but the Patriots went on the Patriots had 2 dynasties. They went in a 10-year gap without winning the Super Bowl. 10 years without winning the Super Bowl. The Chiefs just haven't done that. The Chiefs are going to be in a 10-year gap to where they maybe win, 5 or 6 Super Bowls if they keep these core guys together. I don't know. I think they would be the greatest dynasty of all time. I think it would go Chiefs, late Patriots, early Patriots. I don't know, though. They went on a 10-year gap without winning a Super Bowl. The Chiefs aren't going to do that. If the Chiefs win, Travis Kelce will propose to Taylor Swift on the field. Why not? Why not? I honestly have no comment on this. I don't know why I put this in here. Who fucking cares? Will Travis Kelce retire? I don't know. A part of me wants to say yes with just let's go out on a 3-peat, but another part of me wants to be like, why would you not go for 4? I get walking out when you're on top, but also it's like, you feel like you got to go for 4. 4 would be crazy. 4 would be absolutely nuts. And then my last one here, Chiefs rookies from 2022, a.k.a. Trent McDuffie, would have won 3 Super Bowls in their first 3 years of the league. Guys will spend 20-plus years in the NFL and not win a Super Bowl. And Trent McDuffie just walked into the Chiefs and already has 2 under his belt, playing in his 3rd. It's pretty remarkable stuff. Final thoughts on the Super Bowl. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great game. And for the people bitching about the matchup, don't watch it. I don't care. More football for me. But I'm going to celebrate it because it's the last football game of the year, and it's going to be absolutely electric. No doubt about it. All right, let's get into stay or go. This is a segment in which I name a Vikings free agent, which there's a lot of them, and discuss whether I think they should stay or go. Next up, running back Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones played pretty good this season. He had the most touches ever in his entire career, which is pretty crazy. The Vikings didn't have a lot of depth at the running back position. Cam Akers kind of came in at the end of the season and helped in that aspect of things. But at the same time, Aaron Jones carried most of the load. No, did he? But I think he did good. There was a couple times where he fumbled. I don't think that's a characteristic of him. I think he can hang on to the ball. I'm not really worried about that aspect of it. The thing I worry about the most is that he just misses like random drives, random series, random plays. Like I think it was the Lions game. He just missed the opening drive of the second half when Cam Akers ripped off a big run. It's just weird stuff like that. And then you wonder, another year down the road, how healthy is he going to be? Can he remain healthy? Can he remain that uptick in touches, which I don't think he can? But those are the questions that need to be asked about Aaron Jones. And then we look at the draft upcoming in April. It's the deepest running back draft in recent memory. People are saying it's basically two running back classes crammed into one. So take last year and the year before, some very talented running backs, with Gibbs and Robinson, and you can name them. Push them together, and they're in the same class. It's a deep class. I think Aaron Jones would be a great leader to have in the locker room, especially if you're losing Harrison Smith, if you're losing Stephon Gilmore, if you're losing some of that veteran presence, either to retirement or free agency. Having Aaron Jones would be nice to remain in the locker room just for that veteran presence. I do believe that. I do like the fit in the offense, but can he be replaced by a rookie running back? Probably. Leading to me saying I think he should go and not stay. It might be controversial, but either way, if he does stay, I'm not going to be upset because it's not going to be that expensive. It's probably not going to be long term, but if the Vikings want to stick him around, run with it for another year, that's fine. But I do think they should draft a running back in April. And we're going to get into more draft stuff. We're going player by player here, and I have one coming up in the next segment. But overall draft scheme, I want the Vikings to trade back just because of how deep this draft is. D-line and running back are the deepest positions in this draft, and that's what the Vikings need the most. And I believe if you trade back and get some picks at the top of the second, maybe throw a third round pick in there, I believe that would be the way to go instead of just picking at 24. I think the only way you pick at 24 is if a guy is there that you're just like, what the hell is he doing here? Like, why is he down here? Why has nobody drafted him? He's top 3 on our board, whatever it is. Then you pick him there. But I do think the best strategy for the Vikings would be to trade back and to try and get more picks later on. I think you can draft a really solid running back in rounds 5 of the draft. Like I said, it's two crammed together. I think there's going to be third round talent in the 5th round of this draft just because of how loaded these running backs are. And I think there's some really good scheme fits for the Vikings running game as well. But the Vikings need to improve in the run game. They need to get their run game together. And I think signing Aaron Jones would help. I think letting him go and signing some rookies would help. Either way, something's got to change. And obviously getting a new interior offensive line will help as well. But between the play calling, the personnel, this run game needs to get back towards the top of the league, which honestly, it hasn't been there since Adrian Peterson. And something needs to change. All right. Let's get to our NFL draft highlight. We're going to highlight one player from the draft that the Vikings could possibly end up selecting in April. Today, we have East Carolina defensive back Shavon Revel. I've seen a lot of mock drafts. He's going around the 20s range, maybe even a little bit before that. This dude is an athlete. He suffered a season-ending ACL injury in September, but he had an outstanding junior season, a season in which obviously he hardly even had to play his senior year, and he's still projected to be a first-round pick. So obviously there's already worries there. Can he come back from the ACL? Is that explosiveness and speed that he has still there? He's a big guy. He's 6'1", 190 pounds, and he's long arms. He's a great athlete. He's willing to become a tackler when he needs to be, and he can make up ground with his long strides. He can make plays from zone and man, and guys are comparing him to Benjamin St-Juste for his NFL comp. First-round quarterbacks, they can be a touchy subject for the Vikings as they haven't hit on one in a very long time. You know, Mike Hughes, Trey Waynes, just to name a couple. And it can be tough. And would I like to see them maybe sign a guy in free agency? Yes. And we're getting to that segment here next. But I don't think you can let the past affect the future. Different defensive coordinator, different players, you know, just because Mike Hughes, Andrew Booth, who was a second-round pick, but, you know, just because those guys didn't work out in the past doesn't mean Siobhan Ravel can't. And I do believe the Vikings need a long-term answer at cornerback. The one-year deal guys, just I don't think it's going to cut it. You need some youth. You need some guys who are going to get better year in and year out, and you need some guys on some cheaper contracts. You need a rookie corner that is on a cheap contract, and you can fill out the rest of the defense around him. Look at the Eagles. They have 2 rookie corners starting in the Super Bowl. And of course, they have Darius Slay on the outside as well, but they can have other guys, other big free agents, and they can, with guys with bigger contracts, because they have so many rookies because of the drafts that they've hit on. You know, I really want them to go D-line first in the draft. I think that's a bigger need than corner, just because I think you can sign a corner in free agency or multiple. But I wouldn't mind a Siobhan Ravel pick either. If B-Flow thinks that's the guy and B-Flow thinks he can develop him into one of the league's best, let's freaking do it. Let's get him. Let's get our guy, and let's get a lockdown corner for this defense. Something we haven't had since 16 with Xavier Rhodes, 17 with Xavier Rhodes. It's going to be a tricky situation. So let's lead into my NFL free agent highlight. We're going to highlight Jets cornerback DJ Reed. He had a fantastic season last year. He turned out to be better than his teammate Sauce Gardner throughout the season. Sauce just kind of fell off, and DJ Reed, he was locking up the other team's best wide receivers, including Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, in which he did in London, which honestly might have been his best game. He was locking guys up in London. First, I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I was there firsthand. DJ Reed, he's a baller. He's going to get paid around $15 million per year, so the Vikings have the cap space for it. And he could be, you know, he's a little bit older, but he could be more of a long-term solution for the position. Long-term as in 5 to 6 years? Probably not. But 3 to 4 years? Yeah, maybe. I think he could, you know, and I think that's the Vikings window, 3 to 4 years while JJ McCarthy is still on this rookie deal. I think he fits the Vikings window. B-Flow, obviously get this guy right. I mean, that's just what I resort to on defense. Like, let's get B-Flow in the room, see who the hell he likes, and let's weigh his opinion so much. Kwesi is great with free agents. Is he good at drafts? Not that much, but he's getting better. He's getting better at drafts. But let's weigh B-Flow's opinion on who he wants, because he is a defensive genius, guru, whatever you want to say. He knows what the fuck he's talking about. So let's use that insight, because we have another year with him being our defensive coordinator. Let's use the insight to see who he wants. And I think DJ Reed would probably be atop of his list. PFF has him ranked as the 6th highest. He's the 6th highest rated free agent, or 6th best available free agent out of any position. And he's the number 1 cornerback available. So if the Vikings want to go sign the number 1 cornerback or the number 1 offensive guard in free agency, that's fine by me. Go get whatever one you like. two positions of needs. I think you can get D-line in the draft. I think you can get interior O-line in free agency. I think you can get both a corner in both the draft and in free agency. There's a lot of different ways to go. It just depends on where the dominoes fall, what happens in free agency, and then how you round out your free agency gaps in the draft. You don't have a lot of draft capital, and that's why I say you could try and trade back. And that's why I was saying earlier in the show that you try and trade Sam Darnold to a quarterback needy team in a year in which you don't have a lot of draft capital. I think that would be the smartest decision for the Vikings. I've highlighted some other defensive linemen or offensive linemen for free agents. I think we did. Who did we do last week? Trying to remember who we did last week. First week was Will Fries, I believe. Yep. First week was Will Fries. Who was last week, guys? It was Kenneth Grant. Oh, yeah, Javon Kinlaw. So, yeah, I mean, those are the positions of need. D-line, corner, even safety. Harrison Smith is going to be a big domino to fall, but I'm looking forward to an exciting offseason. All right, we're going to look at my top 5 favorite Vikings moments from this season. These are mine, personal list, not yours. I believe I hit most of the good ones, though, and I feel like most people would agree with me. Number 5, Cam Bynum Usher dance. Not just this specific dance, but this is the dance that got it all started. This is the dance that set the tone for celebrations for the season. The best in the league. This is the one that got the Vikings' social game all the way up through Cloud 9. Cam Bynum did a great job. Number 4, Kirk Cousins being booed, walking his ass back into US Bank Stadium. About time he gets booed for stealing all that money from us. He should have to return it to Atlanta and return some of it to Minnesota. That was pretty. That was a pretty bad performance from Kirk Cousins, and it made me very, very happy to see that. And that not so much to see the performance that game, but just what he did this season and getting benched makes the Vikings look like freaking geniuses for moving on from him. Made the right decision there. It was good to get some closure on that. Number 3 was the Gink Sixes. Most notably the one against the Jets, just because that one was a little bit more electric. I was there. I was about 7 deep, and that freaking had me ecstatic. I think it was the first touchdown of the game, but that was freaking exciting stuff. And it was against Rodgers, so that's extra brownie points too. Number 2 is Justin Jefferson's 97-yard touchdown against the 49ers. This had me jumping up and down in my living room cheering. And this is when I realized that, like, oh my God, like Kevin O'Connell trusts Sam Darnold. This isn't the Sam Darnold of old. We have like a legitimate guy in Sam Darnold, and who knows what this season is going to bring. But it was a freaking exciting play that foreshadowed a very exciting season in Minnesota. And number 1, the top Vikings moment from the season, in my humble opinion, was Sam Darnold to Justin Jefferson game winner against the Seahawks. That catch, unbelievable. That throw while getting hit, unbelievable. The adjustment in the air by Justin Jefferson, unbelievable. The clutch factor, unbelievable. And it was at this moment in time in which I thought the Vikings had a legitimate shot to win the Super Bowl. I legitimately thought they had a chance to win the Super Bowl because they had ripped off so many games in which they came back from and won so many one-score games that I was like, oh my God, they could actually do it. And the Seahawks were like a decent team at the time. I mean, they had good wide receivers, decent offense, pretty good defensive line, but the Vikings found a way to get it done. And it was exciting. And that was the top moment for me, because that was just like the peak of the season. Just like, oh my God, the Vikings are actually freaking good. Of course, you can put in beating Green Bay twice, but that's not really a moment. That was just like a collective week 1, or the early game against the Packers was fun, but you almost blew it. I mean, you didn't. It was closer than the scoreboard was closer than what the game actually was. But the second time we played the Packers, it's like it wasn't really a close game. The Vikings just kind of dominated it. But obviously, whenever you beat them, huge stuff. But those are my top 5 favorite moments, hoping for a lot more next season. All right. People, get your most random Vikings player ready. Name the most random Viking you can think of. Great offseason episode here. I'm going to have a lot of stories coming back from the Super Bowl next week on the show. It's going to be great. We're going to get Thor from Score North. If you guys know Thor, he's going to be on the show in the next couple of weeks, maybe a little bit closer to the draft expert. I mean, we talk about a guy who knows ball. Thor knows ball. We're going to get him on the show to talk Vikes, what he thinks is best for the team. He's a huge JJ McCarthy guy, so I think him and I are going to get along. All right, name the most random Vikings player you can think of. I'm going to go. I think they're going to do a quarterback today. I'm going to go Teddy Bridgewater. Why not? He's been in the news. How about Tajee Johnson? He was a cornerback for the Minnesota Vikings for a brief stint in 2002. Not exactly a household name, but he made the roster for a short time before fading in to obscurity. Obscurity. I don't know. I can't say that word. Yeah, I never would have gotten that. No way any of you listeners got that either. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Got a lot more stuff for you on the way. You guys have a good one.